Grab a cup of joe, buckle up, and let's embark on a journey of self-discovery, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Let's get rolling.
Welcome back to the Rhythm of the Road podcast, everyone. I just want to thank you for being here, and we're going to take it a little old school today. And by old school, I mean, we're going to go back to how did I even arrive here? So often people say, well, I was on this journey, or I'm going to tell you my story. But I wanted to go back even farther and just talk a little bit about the music world and how I arrived here from that space. Because I think understanding how you arrived here and maybe some of the pieces and parts and the things you learned along the way really will make a bigger impact on what you do moving forward and what you can share back to those folks once you've created some moments of success along that way. And if I'm going to start talking about something back there, what I really need to start talking about is a couple of words that I'm sure that all of you listeners and viewers are very aware of, and that's fear. And that fear of whether it's imposter syndrome, you have fear because, you have some sort of phobia, that is just a reaction that you're having in a very short moment. And something that often is in parallel with fear is taking risks or being at risk or taking a risk and going forward. Like, you can use that word in different ways. And like fear, it can feel so negative. But at the same time, like, fear is actually a positive thing if you use it to your advantage. We're supposed to have fear of certain things. It's what our body is telling us so that we can stay safe. It's when it goes beyond that it gets challenging. So that's why they encourage you when you're little or to take risks, like step off the ledge or jump into the pool or jump into the lake. You have a life jacket on, right? That's something that we teach our kids here a lot in Minnesota because we have so many lakes and we do lots of outdoor swimming in the summer that's not in pools. And so we are teaching our kids to take a risk because they have a fear. And why am I going back so far when I told you that I was going to talk about how I got you here? Well, it was taking some of those risks when I was in balls of fear and wonder and not understanding when I stepped into the music world in terms of a professional space. And I've defined professional space as you get paid to do a job. And when I stepped into the space where I was consistently being compensated for playing music and traveling and learning gigs and playing live and teaching and writing and arranging and all of the things that I did that were inside of the music business that were like felt like I was doing 100 things all the time. Thank goodness I'm not doing those 100 things anymore. Maybe it's like 25 or 30. So I'm dwindling that down, and that's something that you learn along the way. But it was really about, in the beginning, taking some of those risks to help me defeat some of those fears. And it started with just doing it on my own. It started with meeting some folks that were already doing some of the things I was doing or a version of what I was doing, and then learning from them. And whether learning from them meant hearing what they said and doing what they said, or hearing what they said and said, well, that's an opportunity for me to learn, and I can take from them what I want and need and what works for me, and I can do it this way and go to the next thing. And all along that journey, I found folks who helped me get to the next thing. What I really started to realize is, as I was 6, 7, 8 years in, was maybe there's some folks out there that can really help to accelerate, right? And this hit a big fear spot for me because it was kind of that moment of imposter syndrome. Like, do I even belong here? Do I have value here? And what I'm doing, does it make a difference? Does it make an impact? What am I even showing up for? It was when I hit that moment and that fear and not wanting to take risks or move forward anymore that I found a coach. And I can tell you, when I found that first coach, Nick, he was so helpful and so amazing and so incredible. And, he's about my age. I think he actually might be a little bit younger, but he had so much experience and he taught me so much in that time. And the risk for me was like, I was a working musician. It wasn't like I had all this money to hire a professional coach, but it was exactly what I needed. Yes, did it set me back and did I have to work a little extra harder? Yes, of course, but that's kind of the point. And he got me through a space that allowed me to catapult and have some direction and give me some mentorship on maybe at least some things to think about, right? And when you find that right person that you can work with that can give you those insights, it's about them uncovering and helping you get out of your own way by using some of the things that either A, they've already done, or B, they've already learned, and C, some knowledge that they can share and some networks that they can get you into. And that's what I mean by this opening this network in this music world. Because as I started to gain more relationships, notice I didn't say bigger or better or, you know, whatever that means to you, I just started to gain more relationships. And by gaining more relationships and building those relationships and keeping those relationships, it led to other relationships. And certain ones just take time. And networking for me is really about time, because time is always, people say time isn't your friend. In networking, time is your friend, right? As long as you are intentional about it and you're working towards something, and that something is really just building better relationships. If you go into a networking situation about like, what's in it for me? How can this person lead me to that person? Or I need to talk to this person because they're the only person that can get me to that person, right? Becomes a gatekeeper sort of situation. But I really took it as like, I'm just going to build relationships and then see where that relationship takes me. And sometimes it took me to right where it was. Sometimes it took me to gaining a new friend. Sometimes it took me to oh, well, they maybe discover this thing that maybe either A, I didn't know about myself, or B, that I was interested in, or C, I wanted to find out a little bit more information to see if I was interested in it or not. And or who else could that lead to, right? Because you don't know who that person knows. And so each relationship led me to the next. And then it led me to having some relationships and building some opportunities to connect with some folks that continue to grow up higher in the arena of music or the world of music, however you want to think about it and say it, right? We're going from the working kind of regional musicians to the national musicians, and to now, that echelon of the music world where these are the touring folks. These are the ones that are in arenas. These are the ones that are doing record deals. They're signing with record labels and they're working with the big studios in New York and Nashville and Chicago and LA and Texas, right? These are the folks that I grew into, right? Notice I said that I grew into them because I had to be ready for them when I got there so that I could respect the space I was in. And that's one thing I love about networking is respecting the space you're in at the time so that you can get to the next space. And that's not right. We're always not leaving those folks behind. I think the favorite part about how I've been able to build relationships and network with folks across the US, Canada, South America, a little bit in Europe is just the fact that I continue to nurture those relationships. And it's not like I spend 10 hours a week like reconnecting with folks all over the world. No, there's a cadence for that, right? I can have a rhythm to the amount of connections I have with folks in terms of where they're at geographically, in terms of where they're at in their career and where I'm at in my career, in terms of what industry are they in and what am I focusing on in my businesses right now, because those are the folks that are going to take you to those new next steps. And sometimes it takes literally a couple of years of just interacting with those folks and being present and being consistent and being persistent about your intentional and about being consistent about intentionally showing up for those folks and giving value and doing stuff for them, not always thinking like, what do I get in return? And doing stuff for them might be hiring them, pay them, use your hard-earned dollars that you're making for yourself in your job or you're making in your business, like use them, because those will help you build new relationships and they can know, like, and trust you. And then I always think about when I'm wanting to grow a part of my business, I always go to those I know and not necessarily always ask them if they're interested in what product or service or I might be offering. Or it's not always about when I go to these folks and I am offering something new in terms of a service or a product. It's about who do they know, right? Because then it removes that weirdness because you've created a relationship with this person. Most likely, if it's not a friendship, it's at least a professional relationship where you have mutual respect and you have a bunch of commonalities. You can do that. But it's really about like, then who do they know? Because you just take it, you remove them from the equation, they just become a connector and they can lead you to other folks. And then those other folks are going to thank that person, which is the benefit that you brought to that, right? You made them feel good about connecting you to the others. My favorite thing to do is to be a connector. I always want to find someone for whatever someone comes to me for. For a long time, it was when people were calling me to play gigs. If I couldn't play the gig, I would go the extra mile to find a couple other options for that person until they were able to fill it. So going that little bit of extra made those folks keep calling me. If anything, yes, it was great that they were calling me, that I was the call that they wanted, but they also knew if I didn't know someone, if I couldn't do it, then they would know that they would have access to some other folks. And then that spread from just other drummers to all of the other musicians because I continued to grow and expand my network in that space. And as I got into the business entrepreneur space through masterminds and networking meetings and chamber of commerce and BNI groups and all of those kind of networking type of groups, I started to do the same thing. And then it was really easy because I'd already been doing it in the music business for 15 years. And that's what people enjoyed, is because they could always find a connection. My wife and my kids always joke with me. They're like, is there anybody you don't know that can do something? And the answer is probably yes, because I don't have access to everybody and every type of thing going on. But I certainly know a lot of people. And if anything, I definitely know someone who knows someone. So I continue to be that connector and be that person. And that's the most powerful thing that you can do in a networking situation, is be the person people can go to. And people can go to not just the service or product that you are providing, but also who you can connect them to. So as you're thinking about building your networking, building your leads, building your masterminds, whatever you're trying to build, networking is the fastest and easiest, even if it feels like it's a marathon. And I always tell folks, I'm in this for the marathon, not for the sprint. And as it continues to grow, there have been some compounding and synergistic collaborations that have happened in literally the last 6 to 7 months that would have never happened if I hadn't started the things that I started in the last 5 to 7 years. So think about that. The things that are happening in the recent 6 to 7 months are because I'm what I'm doing 5 to 7 years ago. So that's called, running the marathon, not the sprint. So as you think about it, what things are you doing right now to start building for 5 to 7 years from now? And you might make some goals and have some strategies and all those things. And I always look at my plan of attack of where do I want to be 6 to 9 months from now, right? And I'm planning that far ahead. So who do I need to network? Who do I need to know? What people do I need to get in connection with so that I can make sure that those goals can be achieved? If you have any questions, feel free, reach out. Whether it's in a DM or an email, or if you're in my inner circle, you have my phone number. Send me a text message, because that's the quickest, fastest, easiest way to get a hold of me. And if you want a little more insight, pick up my book, Road to 99. It's on Amazon. You can either listen to it on Audible, you can do it on your e-reader, or better yet, pick up the print book, have it. You could take notes, scribble all over it, highlight it, do all those things, because it's got a bunch of these tips and tricks about networking littered through that book. And I thank you for being right here, and I'll see you down the road.
Thanks for cruising with me on this episode of Rhythm of the Road. Remember, the journey itself is the destination. Until next time, keep the rhythm flowing, and we'll see you down the road.